Okay. Please say something, just to check if all
Hey,
is
how's it going?
nice. Nice. It's working. Okay, I started the stream. You have my Twitch link, right? Or should I send you so you can watch?
No, I have it. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I saw you posted on Twitter.
Yeah. It's
Where did it
that
go?
that
There.
that Twitch channel. Nice. Okay. Um. Okay. Announced it. I close this one. This one left open. Okay. Oh. Okay. I think I'm good now. Okay. All the cables here. Okay. So you can hear me and see me, right? Everything is fine.
Yeah, everything's great.
Okay. I will check if. Okay. Okay, I will wait for the response of my chat if everything is working for them as well. And after that, we
Oh,
can start. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
let's see.
Jó, hölgyek, urak, hogyha látjátok a streamet, egy visszajelzést kérlek szépen adjatok. Please, everyone who is at stream, even Hungarian speaking viewers or English speaking viewers, please give us a response. I know a lot of people, lurkers around this time of the day, but yeah, please give us a response so we can start. Hölgyek, urak, egy visszajelzést dobjatok, légy. Nobody is giving a response.
I can ask my friends to check it out.
Yeah, around this time, people are usually getting home from work, so
What time is it over there?
it's 6 p.m.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just waking up.
Oh, okay. It's like morning time for you?
Yeah, 10 a.m.
I see.
That's the one nice thing about being an indie developer. You can start your day late.
Yeah. Messy sleeping schedule, I guess. But it's
Yeah,
working. Okay. Szia, Petya! Jól működik a stream? Jó a minőség? You can hear? Big Bash, yo, what up? Welcome. You can hear and you can see us. It's not laggy, right? What up, Big Bash? Thank you for stopping by. Szia,
I know fake
Gergovics.
that.
De jó, mint mindig? Okay. They're saying it's everything's fine. Figbash is saying as well everything's fine. Thanks for tuning in, by the way, everyone. So yeah, don't mind use the chat in English as well, everyone. I'm a multinational person and multi-language streamer, so yeah, feel free to use the chat in English. Also, by the way, we will start the interview, and after the interview, if you guys and girls in the chat will have any questions, let us know. Yeah. Okay, if you're good, we can start. Let me know.
Yeah, I'm good whenever.
Nice. Okay, let's start. So yeah, welcome everyone. I'm Remulto. This is the 11th episode of Dev Life, in which my today's guest is Dave, who is the developer of Earl versus the Mutants. And yeah, I'm very thankful and I'm very honored that you have accepted my request for this interview of mine. And first of all, let's start with introduction. So please introduce yourself.
Yeah, so um just to be clear here, this is my second time ever being on Twitch, so
Okay.
I'm I'm new to this whole thing. But yeah, no, I'm Dave Geurts. I am from Salt Lake City, Utah, in America. Right in the middle of the desert. We get really hot summers and then a ton of snow in the winter. I think it's supposed to get to like 101 Fahrenheit today, which is what, like 38 for you or something.
Okay.
I don't, I don't remember
That's
how
a
to
lot.
convert it. Yeah. Um, let's see, what is it? Yeah, 38.3.
Okay.
Yeah, so we get really hot.
So we cannot complain here in Europe with our 31 and 34. Yeah.
Yep, yep. It's a dry heat though, so it's not too bad.
I
Um,
see.
so yeah, I grew up in Salt Lake City, and I still live here. I got into computers when I was really young and always been a gamer.
I see.
And I've worked at several gaming places and also software places. And so recently, about a year and a half ago, time goes by really quick. Myself and two people I've worked with a bunch who are also close friends, we all stopped working at our jobs and started a little indie studio. So
What made you like stop working at your official job and start going indie? What was the decision
it
behind it?
was, yeah, it was a unique situation for each of us.
Okay.
Um,
What was yours then?
yeah, I was in a transition period. So I about 10 years ago, I left the gaming. I was working at a gaming place called Wildworks
Okay.
that made a game called Animal Jam for little kids. And it was kind of like Club Penguin. Um, and it was made in Flash a long time ago.
I see.
And a friend from high school came and pitched me on accounting software idea he had. So we did a startup about 10 years ago of accounting software. And I was the CTO and did all the tech stuff. And we grew that business for about 8 years, and then we sold it.
Okay.
So I was without a job because I just sold the company.
I see.
Um, and I started working on little indie prototypes and things. And then two people that I who I'm good friends with, and then also um, have worked with in the gaming industry. They were also kind of in a transition period. So Coulter, our CEO, he was just between jobs looking for something new. I think he was maybe not working for like 3 or 4 months before we started talking about doing this.
I see.
And then our other friend, Ed, Mr. Figbash there, he's one of the most talented um, gaming developers and VFX people that I've ever worked with. I always knew if I was going to make a game, I'd want to work with him.
Nice.
He was on a project that was winding down as well. And so we all just came together and yeah, it was just perfect timing.
I see.
And yeah, we decided to do a little startup. It's obviously a little risky and exciting, but
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. That was it like a scary situation at the beginning? Like,
yeah, no, it definitely is.
okay. How did you guys handle it or handle it?
It was a different. So I guess if I could describe it, when I did my other software startup 10 years ago,
Okay.
we started with almost zero money.
I see.
So it was very risky and stressful at
So
the
you had
beginning.
the experience, I think, in my opinion, how to
Yeah,
handle those situations.
yeah. So I got experience doing that. But we were essentially gonna go out of business like every 3 months. It was like, oh, we're gonna go out of business, and then we make a little tiny bit of money.
I see.
Um, and then we raised a little bit of money, And then again, it was like, okay, we're going to go out of business in 6 months. So it was very stressful starting.
I see.
Um, and then with this indie studio, we actually started with some money and a budget. Um, so it was a little different where the beginning wasn't stressful financially wise. Um, and we had enough money to make a game or two over the next, around 2 years or so. So it wasn't financially stressful at the very beginning, but then as time went on, and we started spending more money, which we planned on doing, but it started getting more stressful towards the end. So it was actually
I see.
like kind of the complete opposite experience.
I see.
Um, but it is when you have a career. So
Yeah, true.
like myself, and then our CEO Coulter, and then our lead tech dude Ed. We've all been, we're all a little bit older, I guess you could say, and we've been in the games industry. Each of us has probably worked in gaming for 20 years or so,
That's a
like
lot, yeah.
15 to 20 years. So even if you're going into a startup that has a budget and has some money, you're still pausing your career, and it is stressful because
Yeah.
let's say it doesn't work out. You still have to go look for a job after, and kind of deal with being out of the industry for a couple years, like out of the AAA industry type of
Yeah.
thing.
And were there
So it is,
times when you wanted
yeah,
to give up? Like,
yeah. So it is still risky and stressful. And it is kind of disruptive to your career, and you are taking a risk.
yeah.
Um, and then especially so, we started this thing, like I was saying, about a year and a half ago. Um, and that's when, the economy started changing, and kind of COVID changed things. And now the industry, in a sense, is kind of imploding when it comes to employment. Um, and it's a really hard time in the games industry right
Yeah.
now. So it is kind of stressful to the fact where, if this doesn't work out, we have to go into an industry where it is kind of difficult to find a job and things like that. Fortunately, we're kind of seniors and have a lot of experience, and
I see.
I think that each of us would, be able to get back into things pretty quickly. But yeah, it's been a little risky and stressful, but also fun. Um, so yeah, and without the risk and without the stress, success when you succeed, it makes it so much more fun.
Yeah, I
It
agree.
tastes better, right?
Yeah.
You kind of earn it in a way.
I see.
Um, so yeah, that's kind of how we started and what we've been going through emotionally. And yeah, we took a big risk, but it's been fun. And one thing in life, you got to take risks, right?
True, true.
I definitely am one to, I'd rather regret trying and
Not
failing than
making it,
regret.
yeah.
Yeah. So, um, my wife doesn't really like that a lot, but I enjoy taking risks.
Oh, she's not into gaming like you?
No, she is. She just doesn't like
Okay.
taking big risks.
I see, I see, I see.
But
Were
no,
she
no, no.
supportive though about your decision of making your own
No, she
game?
is. Yeah, she does. She
Nice,
does for
nice.
sure. That is one thing you got to get on the same page with your partner, whoever they
Yeah,
are.
true, 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 true.
Um, Makes it a lot better. But
Yeah, agreed.
yeah, so that's how we kind of what we've been up to.
I see.
We're giving it everything we got, and we're really excited about our project.
Nice. So so let's head back to an origin story of yours. So you were telling me that you played a lot of games, but what made you decide, or you had the decision to be a developer? How it all started from your hobby, or
Yeah,
from your love of games?
that's interesting. You're gonna have to make me use my memory. I'm getting old now. I'm in my 40s. I can't remember that far back. Um, let's see here. So my first gaming memory. We had an Atari. So I was born in 81.
Okay.
Um, so we had an Atari. It was the color Atari. I remember playing it when I mean, I must have been 3 or 4. And I remember playing Moon Patrol.
Nice.
You were this little like tank thing that had to jump over pits and triangles, spikes, I guess.
Yeah.
I remember it was very frustrating. It was really hard. I was really little, but I loved it. And then there was this other game where it was like 4 player, and you all had paddles, and you were these little tanks on the ground.
Okay.
And you would shoot airplanes in the sky and things like that. I remember playing that game. I don't remember what it's called. But yeah, no, I started playing Atari, and then I remember we got a NES for Christmas as a family. I must have been 5 or 6, and that was like the most exciting Christmas I recall. It was really cool. Um, so I remember all my older siblings playing Mario, and I had to watch, and they wouldn't let me play forever. And I finally got a turn, and I was still really young, and it was pretty hard. Like I remember being really excited to get that first mushroom and then also make it over the first pit.
Yeah.
Like I remember that was pretty difficult at the time on that first day of playing. But I fell in love with it. So my older siblings, I had 2 older sisters, and they quickly stopped playing as they weren't super into gaming. So I kind of inherited the Nintendo all to myself. And I played it all the time, and I loved it. So that was kind of how I fell in love with gaming. And then my dad, he was into computers,
I see.
so we always had a computer in our house. Um, he did computers for work. He wasn't a programmer or a developer, but he would kind of do IT type of stuff. Like
I see.
he worked at an office building where they had a ginormous computer that all the employees shared.
I see.
And then they had terminals that would connect to it. I don't remember what it was called. I remember what it looked like. But he would kind of keep it running and then help people that needed help on the terminals. And then he would kind of manage them and things like that. So he always bought a computer for our house. So I quickly kind of transitioned to more computer games than consoles. So I remember playing. So this was like late '80s, early '90s. I remember playing a game called A10 Tank Killer. We had a
Okay.
little joystick. It was a super fun
So
airplane
you
game.
still had your love for the tanks and the shooters, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then I remember playing Wolfenstein
Oh,
on
nice.
disc. Yeah, that was a great game. It was just the demo though. I never had the full game.
Back then, when
And
they
then
had these disc demos, in the magazines of video games.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I think I owned more demos than full games that I ever played.
Yeah, those are the times of these demo
Yeah.
discs. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a Madden NFL demo. I remember I played over and over. And all you got to do was one possession of the ball to
Nice.
try and get a touchdown, and that was it. And I played it for months before I scored. It took so long. I mean, as a little kid, these games it's crazy how difficult they were. Maybe it
Yeah,
was
but
just
as a
me.
kid, we had still like more patience for the games to complete them, right?
Yeah, they were so magical. It was
Yeah.
super fun. King's Quest. I got really into
Nice.
King's Quest. I love those
Nice.
games. I used to because there was no internet or anything, right, to do walkthroughs or anything like
Yeah.
that.
You had to figure out for yourself.
Yeah, I remember I had sheets of paper and I made my own map of
Nice.
all the little like when you'd move around the map, and I'd write down what was inside of each one. Um, and I belonged to a church. I grew up Mormon, and that was kind of the place where we would trade insider knowledge and
Oh,
secrets.
okay.
I,
About video
I that's
games,
where yeah, I remember learning how to beat King's Quest 1 from someone at
Oh,
church.
nice. Nice.
Yeah, I got stuck a couple places, and they helped me out. And then I remember learning all the combos to Street Fighter at church too.
Oh,
So that was
nice.
kind of our rumor mill. um,
Who did you
I'm
main
trying
in
to
Street
see
Fighter games?
what's that.
Who did you main in Street Fighter games?
Oh, Ryu for
Oh, nice,
sure.
nice, nice,
Yeah, I like Blanca too, but Ryu is definitely my go-to.
nice.
Um, yeah, I remember playing Descent. That was kind of a life-changing game
Okay.
for me. That was so cool and so much fun. I still remember the first time I beat the level and you fly out of the little building as it's
Yeah,
exploding. That was a really good one. Prince of Persia, I remember the first one.
yeah.
The visuals and the animation was so cool. Um,
Classic one. Yeah.
like when you fell on the spikes. Um, I didn't know about, rotoscoping and all the things they were doing back then,
I
but I
see.
just thought I thought it looked really cool.
Have you
Like
already
that was,
developed like a developer mind at that time of your life? Do you think like you were watching games from a different perspective when you were a kid?
yeah, I mean, I started thinking about how they would be made.
Okay.
Um, I didn't know any developers.
Okay.
I didn't even really know what programming was.
Okay.
But I definitely started thinking about how games were made or like, what kind of games I would want to make and things
I
like
see.
that. So I started getting into it. So then about that time, I was playing a lot of PC games and I was, let's see, how old would I have been? Probably like 12 and 13, and I got into junior high school. Um, and then in junior high school, so I went from elementary to junior high, you meet a lot more kids, the school's bigger. So I started meeting other gamers, and things like that. And then also I got really lucky. So this was it was probably in 1997.
Okay.
There was a math teacher at my school who also knew how to program,
Oh.
and he did a class on Pascal. So myself and we were the only school that I knew of that even had a programming class.
Oh, nice.
So we got really lucky, and he taught us Pascal, and that was so magical. It blew my mind. I fell in love with it, and I started doing it all day, every day. I would make games like all night long. So the first game I made, I remember, was a solitaire game
Okay.
where it actually like drew the cards. Um, and I actually drew the little like diamonds and things. I didn't know how to draw shapes. I actually like to draw a diamond was like 30 lines of code.
Wow.
I'm
Okay.
just like, because I didn't know,
Yeah.
I was learning myself, so I didn't really know about, I kind of learned about loops and things,
There
but I
were no
definitely,
assets to use like nowadays for free.
yeah, they did have shapes you could draw, but I
Okay.
didn't even know how to do that yet.
I see.
So it was like a collection of like 100 lines of draw one pixel here,
Yeah.
one pixel here. But I thought it was really cool, and then I kind of started learning how to put them in functions and loops and things, and that was
I
super
see.
cool. I remember making a breakout game that was fun.
Oh, okay.
But then I had this interesting experience. So we were on a network. I can't remember. It was probably Novell or something. I can't remember. But I went into the command prompt in class, and I remember typing help and like just trying to goof around. And there was all these commands that said like send message or like list users and things like
Yeah.
that. I ended up running a command that said send message to all, and I was like, I didn't even know who it was going to send it to. I figured it would send it to everybody in my class. So I typed something funny like, "Hey, this is Dave," and then I wrote some kind of like naughty joke or something, like a meme today, right?
I see.
Uh, and yeah, I guess if it was today, I would have wrote "skivvy toilet" or something. Um, I was like a 13-year-old. It ended up sending the message to every computer in the entire school, and then
Yeah, okay.
to even to some. computers at the district, and
Nice.
it froze a bunch of computers in typing class, and it was a pretty. I got kicked out of the programming class, which was
Oh, okay.
unfortunate. My parents actually had to. Yeah, I got kicked out and suspended, and I got in a lot of trouble, but it was kind of funny. Um, so unfortunately, I didn't get to finish the class. The teacher also thought it was kind of funny, but the district didn't think it was very funny. Um, so yeah, that was kind of an interesting little moment in my life. And that's that I kind of always fell in love with like hacking type things, like always just seeing how things worked and playing with them
I see.
and things like that. So the next year in school, I guess this was probably the next biggest moment in my life of gaming. I went, so every year you go in and you have new classes with new kids, and new teachers, and you meet a bunch of new kids. I remember this kid walked up to me. Um, I was in science class, and this kid just walked up to me, and he's like, "Hi, I'm Pat," and I was like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" And we started talking, and we found out each of us played games. And he invited me to his house, and so I went up to his house, and it was like um, the biggest house I've ever been inside of. Um, it had a basketball court inside of it
Okay.
and a slide. You had to go down a slide to go inside of the basketball court. Um, they had a stage next to the basketball court that had like drums and guitars to play
Nice.
with and things like that. And I was just like, wow, what is going on here? And eventually he was like, let's go upstairs. I got to show you something. So then he took me into this room that had a bunch of computers that were all networked together. And I didn't even know what that was. I didn't even really know you could connect computers in a house. Um, so he's all, watch this. And he launched Doom. It was Doom 2.
Nice.
Um, and then it said joining game, and he's all, okay, I'm gonna go upstairs, and he ran away. And so I was sitting at the computer, and there was all these dots. It kept doing a dot every like 10 seconds, and I guess it was waiting for his computer to connect. And then all of a sudden it connected, and we were in a game together, and he started chatting to me. He's like, hey, and I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? He's like, we're inside of Doom, let's play. And we started running around, and he was killing me a lot, and it was like mind boggling to me. It was so cool. Um, so I ended up, this turned into into my best friend at the time. We played a lot of games together. I would go to his house after school almost every day, and we would
Nice.
play network games. Um, we would play Duke Nukem, and I think they
Nice.
had four or five computers on their network. And eventually, I was like, "What is going on here?" This is crazy. I wonder, how they have all this money and things like that. Um, and so, we started talking, and he's like, "Yeah, my dad's a video game developer."
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I was like, "Whoa, that's so cool." And he's like, "Yeah, I want to show you one of the games he made." I'm like, okay. So then he booted up this game called Under a Killing Moon.
Okay.
Um, it's this detective game where you play as this guy named Tex Murphy. Um, so he started showing it to me, and it was this super cool game. Um, and at the very end, the evil boss that you fight, um, he's this weird shapeshifter guy who can change into anybody he meets, kind of like that blue X-Men girl.
Oh, nice.
Um, so he's all, watch this. When you beat the game, there's an Easter egg where the evil boss shape shifts into all the developers' faces.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, he's all, watch this, and he's all, oh, that one. And so like it would turn into a different person for 2 seconds. He's all, that one's my dad right there. And that was the first time I saw his dad. I was like, oh wow, this is crazy. Um, and then he showed me more games his dad made. So then his dad also made a game called Lynx. It was a golf game,
Okay.
um, and a ton of other games. There's another one called like Martian Memorandum. like Raiders over Moscow or something like that. So it turns out his dad, this dude named Bruce Carver, was like the most successful game developer in Salt Lake City, and one of the most successful in all of America, probably. At least top like 25 or something. He started this company called Access Software. I think he started it in 1983. So he started it when I was two, um, and he had grown it and made a ton of games. He had the most success with the Lynx Golf Series, um, which was also interesting because I remember playing one of his games when I was like 5 or 6, called Lynx. It was this little pixel golf game, and you would hit the ball and it would hit a tree. And there was this voiceover that said, "Looks like you hit the tree, Jim." And it was like this way famous viral game. I was like, "Holy crap! I remember playing that when I was
Yeah,
little." Um, but yeah, when I met his son, his company had like 100 employees. About,
I see.
I mean, it went from like 50 to 100, kind of up and down. Um, they had made like 20 games. He was very, very successful. And yeah, I had, a really good relationship with his son and his family, over the next couple years. I was at their house almost every single day, just playing games. And um, his dad got us a copy of Photoshop
Oh, nice.
back in the day, and we played with that. He always was buying us software to play with.
Nice.
Um, so there was all this really cool stuff to do at their house. And then me and his son we started making games together in little projects,
Okay.
and uh, seeing what we could do. And then one day, I think it must have been 90, I don't know, 98 or so, maybe 97. He came in, so his dad came in one day, and we were just sitting there playing games, and he said, "Hey, do you guys want to come work at my software company?" And we were in, I was in ninth grade, so it was before high school. So I was either 14 or 15. And we were both, ecstatic, like beyond excited. It was like a dream. So
Yeah.
he's like, "Yeah, you guys can start working there and do QA." Um, so we started working there, in the summer after ninth grade. Um, they had the whole office building was full, so he set up a little picnic table in the hallway, and we gotta sit there and do QA on the games. It was really, really fun. We worked probably, 2 hours here and there,
I see.
and probably like 10 or 12 hours a week, something like that. Um, and yeah, I got to do QA on that Tex Murphy game. I got to do QA on the Lynx golf game. And I would always stay late and try and talk to all the developers. They had a lot of really, really talented programmers. And so I learned a lot while I was there, and I just kind of soaked it all in. And we were learning Photoshop as well. So I got to start doing Photoshop work, in addition to QA. So I worked there probably 2 or 3 years. Um, over going to school. And there was always really fun things going on there. Like at lunch, there was always network games. We played Quake with like 30 people, for an hour,
Yeah. I
at
used to do
lunch
that in
every day.
school as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was just a gaming culture. It was
Yeah.
like I got to be around like some of the biggest people in gaming I'd ever met: programmers, artists, sound people, QA people, and they were all diehard gamers. And it was just a
Yeah.
dream come true. I mean, I was just the luckiest kid in the world. Very, very fortunate. And it was just so exciting. And we had a lot of really cool things happen, like professional golfers would always come.
Oh, nice.
Um, yeah, because they were sponsored in the golf game.
I see.
So I got to meet like Arnold Palmer, Davis, I think Davis Love is his name, something like that. So then I ended up doing Photoshop work in the golf game. So they had this thing in their golf game that made it really popular was um, when you would play the golf game, you could choose a course to go to,
Okay.
and it would look exactly like the course in real life.
Wow. Okay.
So, for instance, like St. Andrews was a big one that I actually worked on as a really popular course. But they would have like four photographers go to the course, and then um, like two or three videographers go to the course, and they would go to every hole and they would walk around and they would take
Nice.
pictures. They would take pictures of every tree and every rock and all the sand pits. And then the videographers would go and they would walk 100 feet and they would spin in a circle and record it. And then they would walk 100 feet and spin in a circle and record it. And then I was on a team that would take these pictures in this video and we would recreate the course so that it would look realistic in the game.
Nice.
And so they ended up having like, 30 to 50 to whatever amount of real courses. And that was one of the main things that made their game so popular. Because people who loved gaming or golfing.
They could relate, I
Yeah,
guess, to the game and
yeah.
playing courses. Yeah.
So my job was called a cutter.
Okay.
We were on a team called Cutters, where we would open up pictures of trees in Photoshop, and we would use the little lasso and highlight all the leaves individually, and then delete all the pixels that weren't the tree,
Okay.
and then we would put a green screen behind it. We would just paint a layer of green behind it, um, and then the code would take these images and put them in the game as sprites. Um, and they would be transparent and kind of look like they were real. They were sprites like Doom, where you can't rotate around the object; it would always be facing you. But it would look fairly realistic and things like that. So I did that in Photoshop for quite a while. Um, I think the other one other cool thing that was kind of exciting was so one day, um, they were really excited and they had a secret and they were like, you can't say anything about this. It's a secret project. But Mark Hamill is coming to our office today.
Okay.
And that was super exciting. We had that happen quite often where kind of some big company or thing would come. But so Mark Hamill, obviously Luke Skywalker,
Yeah.
he wrote a comic book called Black Pearl. Uh, that was his own comic book, and it was starting to get fairly popular. And he wanted to make a video game about Black Pearl. Um, so he actually came to their office, and they were going to make Black Pearl for him.
Okay.
And so we were sitting in the hallway on our picnic tables, working on our computers, and Mark Hamill walked by, with a bunch of like assistants and like a bunch of other people following him. And he stopped and he started talking to me and my friend. And I got to talk to him for a couple minutes, and it was pretty fun. He made fun of my haircut. um, I had something called a bowl cut back then.
Okay.
uh, and yeah, he made fun of my haircut. He said the last time I saw a haircut this bad, I was on David Letterman, and Kurt Cobain had a haircut like yours, or he said something like that. And it was like one of the coolest things that had ever happened to me. So they actually started working on Black Pearl. They never finished it; it never got released, as tends to happen in the industry. So yeah, we were doing that for a while, and that was really exciting. I learned so much about the game industry. I got credits on a couple big titles. Um, so then the next big event that happened, we came to work one day and we were very much not in the know. Um, I guess this had been going on for 6 or 8 months where they were in negotiations to sell their company. Um, so one day we went into work and his dad was really excited and he's like, we're having an all-person company meeting. Everyone come to the meeting room. And we went in there, and the meeting room was just filled with chairs, office chairs. Everyone brought their chair from their desk. They'd never had a meeting this big. And it was really noisy and exciting. And there was a lot of people kind of nervous too. Um, and his dad stood up there, and he had a bunch of other important looking people with him. And he stood up, and he started kind of crying, and was like, he's kind of tearful. And he's like, we, through a lot of, careful thought, we've decided to sell our game and studio to Microsoft. So Microsoft was just getting into gaming really big at the
Yeah, that
time.
was the time when they bought a lot of companies, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, so this was 2000, the year two. It was either 99 or 2000. And so then this other really important looking dude grabbed the microphone, and he's like, "Hey, I'm Ed Freeze, from Microsoft. We're really excited about your team. You guys have been making the best golf game in the world for the last 20 years. Um, Microsoft had their own game called Microsoft Golf, and he's like, we've been trying to make a better game than you over and over, and we've tried to purchase your game over and over for 10 years." And he's like, we're really excited that we came to terms with everything, and you're the one. You're such a special team, and you've made so many cool titles, and we're really excited to just work with you. So that was a really crazy day. I didn't really understand it at the time because I was so young.
Okay.
Um, but it was a very good day and a very bad day for a lot of people there.
Yeah.
Um, there was a good number of people who immediately lost their jobs, just because you were being absorbed by a bigger company. Um, there was like entire departments that Microsoft was like, we can do this.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of middle management got let go. I mean, it was a long time ago. I think some QA, marketing, things like that. So, a good percentage of the company lost their jobs, and it was really hard. Um, and a lot of people there made a lot of money. So, if you can imagine, there was people there who had worked there for, 20 years or something. And the owner, Bruce, this guy, my friend's dad, he was a very generous person. Um, he made a lot of money from this deal, and he gave a very big percentage of it to all the employees,
Nice.
um,
Nice.
just as a thank you and things like that. It was one of those companies where everyone was kind of a family.
Yeah. That's
Um,
rare nowadays, I guess. I mean,
yeah, it is.
not for indie, but the bigger companies, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's very different now.
Yeah.
It's different in two ways. It's more rare to be a family type company,
Yeah.
but back then, employees didn't have stock options, which they do now.
Yeah.
So it was very different, where it was kind of like a family, but the owners of the company made a lot of the money. Compared to today, the companies are more corporate, but almost all employees have some kind of stock option or
Yeah.
something.
True. True. True.
But he was generous enough where he just gave away. He made every single person there more money than they've ever made in their entire lives. In a single payment. Um, he got a lot of stock options from Microsoft in the deal, called penny stocks, and he ended up giving them to all the employees. So like all the employees all of a sudden were owners of Microsoft stock. It was a very big life changing thing for like over 100 people.
Yeah.
But for me as a kid, I was just beyond excited. I mean, it meant that I got to work for Microsoft. So they built a brand new building, state of the art, very large, really cool, like unlimited drinks, unlimited food. We all got new computers, new desks. It was very, very exciting, and I really enjoyed it. And working for Microsoft was a really cool experience. Um, we ended up getting to work on more titles. So the Xbox actually just came out right around then as well, and that was one of the reasons Microsoft was buying so many companies is they wanted a lot of really good Xbox games.
Yeah.
And so our studio got assigned to create a snowboarding game called Amped,
Oh,
uh,
okay.
which was super cool because I was actually really into snowboarding. Salt Lake City is a big snowboarding place, and so that was like I was so excited. Holy crap, that was amazing. So the really cool thing that happened there was Microsoft just started getting into something called mocap. It was this new technology where you would wear the little balls on a
Yeah.
suit, and
You
yeah,
can
it would
capture the
record
movements
you.
of the actual
Yeah,
person.
exactly. And it was brand new at the time. At least to Microsoft, it was brand new. So that was the other really cool thing that happened was they picked the Salt Lake studio to learn how to do mocap and then teach the rest of Microsoft how to do it. So our building was out by the airport at Salt Lake City. They bought a huge warehouse next to the airport and they emptied it out and they built a bunch of big green screens in there. They painted the whole floor green. Um, and one day, um, I have to admit a little mischievous lie here. One day, our manager came into QA in the Photoshop cutter department, and I could tell something exciting was going on. He had a Microsoft rep with him, one of our Microsoft managers, and he goes, "Here, he goes, anybody in here done with their work for the week?" And I wasn't, but I immediately raised my hand. I was like, I am, because I knew something was going on. Um, I hurried and finished my work later on that night, but um, I raised my hand and I was like, I'm done. And he's all right, come with me. And we drove over to the mocap studio. And he's all, you're going to be our little guinea pig. He's all, here, put on this suit. So I put on one of those green, like spandex things. And for the next 2 hours, they taped these little silver balls to me. Um, and they had this big computer in the middle of the room, and I don't remember the name of the software, but there was a bunch of tech people from the mocap company there to teach us how to use it. So for the next like 6 hours, they would be like, okay, hold out your right arm, and then they would teach the Microsoft employee, here's how you link all the balls in the software to the nodes and blah blah blah. And so I just stand there and kind of like raise my arms and whatnot. And then after that, they would be like, "Okay, we're gonna record some things." They'd be like, "All right, pretend you're a football player trying to make a catch, or pretend you're a football player, a quarterback, and then pretend you're snapping, a play and all these football things." And then I learned that the Microsoft people were there to make a football game, and that's why they were investing in the mocap.
I see.
But then we ended up doing all the mocap for the Ant snowboarding game as well. So just by chance of luck, because I raised my hand first, I was actually the very first character in they textured my face onto the very first character in the Amp snowboarding internal demo.
Nice.
It never made it out in the real game, but it was actually super cool. I actually ended up showing a lot of my friends, that I was in a
Do you
snowboarding
still
video
have
game.
that photo, by the way?
I don't. I know
Oh,
someone who has it. I
okay.
thought of that. I wish I had a lot more stuff, actually. I wish I would have taken a lot more pictures and things. But yeah, no, it was really cool. It was such a cool experience. I have so many stories, and um my whole kind of teenage to young adult life was just the game industry,
Okay.
doing QA and working at this company and playing games. And it all came from just meeting, that Pat, my friend in junior high.
Do
And
you still keep in touch with that kid from
oh yeah,
school?
we're still very good friends.
Is he
He
still like
actually
in the gaming industry, or he changed his career totally?
No, yeah, we're both very
Oh,
very in the industry. He went to a school in San Francisco. I can't remember the name, to
okay.
learn how to do 3D graphics. And he finished that, and he came back to Salt Lake City, and he started working at a place called Smart Bomb Interactive,
Okay.
which became Wildworks, and then he's actually running that studio right now.
Oh,
He's
nice.
the yeah, he's the creative director for a game that they I mean they've made numbers and numbers of games as well.
Yeah.
So at that time, Microsoft ended up eventually laying off all part-time employees, um, which meant that I didn't work there anymore. I think that was like 2002. Um, so then the next place I ended up working at was a place called True Golf. Um, it was a bunch of so if you remember, I said a bunch of employees got let go when
Yeah.
Microsoft purchased the studio. It was another company that all those employees went and started.
Oh, okay.
It was in what it was I don't know the correct term for it, but it's not like AR. Maybe it's like you play golf in real life, but also on a computer. There's a big screen and a projector shows the golf course, and you hit a ball in real life and it hits the screen, and cameras detect the angle of the ball
I think
and the
it's
speed
AR.
of
Yeah, I think it's AR. I'm not
yeah, and then
sure.
the ball as it hits the mat, it turns into the digital ball, right?
Yeah.
So I started working there, and I worked there for a year or two doing Photoshop, recreating courses like I was doing. And that was a super cool experience as
There was a
well.
similar game, by the way, on PlayStation 3 called Eye of the Judgment, where they had cards, and on the cards there was a code, and the
Yeah,
camera scanned the code, and when you laid down your cards on the table, there were actually monsters picking up on the screen.
yeah. There was all sorts of cool stuff like
Yeah.
that coming out. Um, and that was a really cool company. They're actually still going as well. Very successful. Called True Golf. And then I ended up leaving True Golf and I started doing software.
I see.
So I had a chance to be a programmer doing software. So I kind of left the games industry. Um, and I started doing software for a bunch of places. And then I actually got a really cool opportunity where through random people I knew, I knew somebody working for MTV.com. So MTV was a very popular TV channel in
Yeah,
America.
around that time, yeah.
Yeah, and they actually played music videos and things like that.
Yeah.
So on their website, they started doing flash games.
Oh, I didn't
So
know
I
that.
actually yeah, so I actually gotta make a couple flash games for MTV.
Nice.
So my boss was in New York, and that was a super cool experience. Um, and then throughout the years, I worked at different places. I worked a little bit in gaming, a little bit in software, back and forth, just programming as much as possible. Um, and then I said my friend Pat went and worked at a place called Smart Bomb and Wildworks. So I ended up working there probably 15 years ago.
Okay.
And that was my first probably programming job for games, my first real job that wasn't like contractor stuff.
Okay.
Um, and I was doing Flash for that game called Animal Jam. And that's where I met another dude. So the owner of this place, his name is Chris Johnson. He started a company called Beyond Games. I don't know when, maybe early 90s or something like that. Um, and so by the time I started working there, probably in like 2010 or 2012 or something, they'd released countless games, and a very successful game developer. Um, he's made a lot of cool stuff. And he kind of turned into my next mentor type person that taught me a lot about gaming and how to run businesses and things like that. Um, and I worked there, and I loved it. It was such a good experience. This is where I met the Earl versus the Mutants co-founders, Ed and Coulter. They both worked there as well.
Okay.
Uh, and we ended up working in Unity 3D there on a bunch of games. And that's when my friend from high school came to me and it was like, I have this accounting software idea, and I ended up leaving, the gaming industry to go do this startup, just because of opportunity, and I really wanted to start my own company.
I see.
Um, it was always a dream of mine, and
Yeah.
yeah, and then like I said, kind of coming full circle, I ran that company for 8 years, and then we sold it, and then now we've been doing Earl versus the Mutants for a year and a half, and that is my entire video game to working in the industry story.
Nice.
It's kind of long and
No, it's a
long-winded
very
and a
nice
lot of.
story. It's a very nice story. I'm curious about who is Earl, by the way. I wanted to ask that too around your life. Like, does it like when you started making the game with your friends? Was Earl like one of you? Like,
Um, so Earl, we started doing brainstorming, right?
okay,
Uh, and we had a little car prototype where you could drive around and run over
okay,
zombies. And we thought, so we went back and forth, and we just thought it would be funny if you were kind of a hillbilly redneck person named Earl, and your boss was an old lady named Edna. So that just kind of came out of I don't know how that idea came about. Just we were doing brainstorming, and it just came out.
I see.
So we know some very talented artists who we contracted with, and we told them this. We were like, all right, your name is Earl. You're like really, you're like you worked at a pest control company with this old lady Edna, killing cockroaches and stuff. And then the apocalypse happened. So now Edna, she's your mean old boss, and now because the apocalypse happened, you're a mutant exterminator. Um, and you're really sick of your job. You're older. You're this older guy. You're probably like an alcoholic. Um, you wake up every day and you're like, oh, I got to go to work again. But at the same time, you just happen to be the most talented mutant exterminator in the world. And you're kind of like excited to retire. And your boss is like kind of grouchy and a silly old lady who works you really hard. And we told them that, and we said, give us concepts. And they made, I don't even know, maybe like 20 concepts of what Earl
Okay,
could look like. Um, and we narrowed that down and iterated on it. And, through these really talented artists we were working with and our concepts, we just kind of narrowed down who Earl was and what he looked like and things like that. And then he just started coming to life. Kind of like the type of things he would say, his catchphrases, what he looks like, the type of clothing he wears, um, things like that. It kind of evolved over. It wasn't anybody we knew we didn't have a picture of who Earl was immediately. It came over a lot of
I
concepting
see. I see.
uh, and going back and forth and things like that.
Was his personality evolved by your influence?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he has a lot of our
Like
humor.
side jokes from your life put into the game?
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, a lot of jokes. Myself and Coulter and Ed are all very childish when it comes to humor, and we enjoy.
But that's a
We
great
we
thing
enjoy,
to have. Like,
yeah, yeah. So Edna and Earl have a lot of funny things they say in the game. And we always have this little joke that Earl has a crush on Edna. So she's probably 70 or 80 years old, and he's probably like 50, 60 years old. And she's kind of a mean boss who works you really hard, and probably doesn't pay you a lot of money. But they say a lot of funny things back and forth with each other.
I see.
But yeah, it's been really fun to evolve it as it's been going.
I see. And when on deciding like what should be the perfect like difficulty for the game, how did it end up like as a decision of you and your
Oh, that's a good
friends?
point. So one thing, we're all very, so there's three of us,
Yeah,
and we're all very, we all grew up gaming.
yeah,
Um, and each of us is kind of into different types of games.
I see.
So we all have our own style of what we enjoy. There's a lot of crossover, but each of us definitely likes a certain type of game. And then all of us had a very strong opinion of what we thought would be likely to be successful and make money, and things like that. And we knew this when we started the company. We had to make a decision of, is one of us going to be a creative director type role? Is one of us going to be a technical leader who makes a lot of those decisions? Um, and then, like, is one of us going to be a game designer and decide like the difficulty and things like that? And we made the decision, for better or worse, to kind of have it be a group decision on everything. So luckily, there's an odd number of us, so we kind of usually have two people against one most of the time. Every now and then, all of us will agree, and then every now and then, all of us will disagree.
I see.
And we knew it was going to be difficult that way, because in all the gaming companies we'd ever worked at, there was at least 20 employees, usually hundreds, and there was always a lead game designer. There was always a lead creative director, who would take input from people, but they would definitely make a decision, and everyone just had to, do it. So we knew it would be hard to do it the group decision way, and it has been very hard. We have had several times where, because of how passionate each of us is, we've had several times where we have, had one of us feel very passionate that the game was too easy or too hard, or it should be more cartoony, or it should be more kind of gritty retro graphics or things like that. So we've had some meetings and phone calls where someone has left emotional or upset, in a good way though,
Yeah.
because of, they just believe in their opinion. But yeah, no, it's just been this process where we're all very good friends and we've worked together a lot. So we have no problem disagreeing and being angry with each other,
Yeah.
or upset.
But
And then,
that's a great thing. Like,
yeah, the next day it's like, okay, it's fine. It's the one person will
just be like
usually,
that. I don't care anymore.
yeah, one person will usually apologize for being emotional or something. But then at the end of the day, we'll all be like, okay, we know, you just really believe strongly in this. Okay, here's where we could meet in the middle,
Yeah.
things like that. So yeah, in the end, we decided, with our skill set, with our budget, with how much money we have, how much time we have, um, how much money we have for artwork, things like that. Um, we decided to make a survivor roguelike game. We looked at, different titles coming out, and obviously there was a huge explosion with like Vampire Survivors and things
Yeah.
like that created the genre. And that was a little bit. I mean, this was a year and a half ago when we were deciding this, but we knew the game wouldn't be done for a year, so we knew people were probably starting to get burned out on them a little bit because it got so much hype. But then, just like any genre, after the hype bubble bursts, there's still going to be a ton of games coming out,
Yeah, it's true.
that are able to make good money. So we decided, with how much money we had for art and animations and things, that this was probably the most likely game that we could make that would be successful, have a high chance of success, just with every variable we could think of, mostly money and time and our skill set. You can do a lot of procedural things with enemies, and you can do less game design with a game like this. And we decided that was our kind of our weak point. Was we were all programmers and visual art people, that we should probably pick a game where the game design, um, can be done, you know, with not as much thought put towards it, where the majority of the game work is coming from the variety and upgrades and how chaotic it gets and all of that stuff. Um, I think, you know, we probably, you know, if we had our way and we had 3 or 4 times as much money, you know, we might have made a different type of game, where, you know, maybe it was like a first person shooter or like a really cool massive co-op game or something. But with our budget and everything, we had to pick a game that we would be able to finish before we ran out of money. You know, very important to run a business uh like that. And you know, we just decided this is our highest chance of having success is making this exact game. So
I see.
we were very thoughtful throughout it. And we had a prototype at the time where you could drive a little car around and like go off jumps and things. You know, this was probably a year and a half ago. It was probably like November in 2022 or something. um, Even before we formed the company, we had a little prototype. Um, so we decided to make a survivor game and have the twist be the hero is a car, a vehicle, and it actually changes the game quite a bit. So that was one thing we were worried about, was standing out in this genre, right? Because there's so many coming out now because of the hype and
Yeah,
how you can make the games with a small budget. Um, and most of them, you were a humanoid that walked around, and you usually were moving pretty slow. Um, and then most of the game, you're trying to dodge the enemies in a way. A lot of the game is you running away from them and herding them, like running in a circle and getting them in a herd, and things like that. And we're like, I think if we made one where we turn the table and you're the aggressor, they're the ones kind of running from you. You're the one going at them aggressively. So we thought in a car where you drive fast, um, in a survivor game where there's these herds of enemies, it would be different enough that, if it was fun, you know, it would be very different and fun. We thought that we had a good chance, of getting people to at least give it a shot.
I see. I see.
Um, so that was our whole thing, and we just leaned into it, and we ended up making a game where, you know, the movement in the game is much more fast paced because you are a vehicle. um, a lot of these games you're very slow, and
Yeah,
you
more strategic.
strategically make
Yeah,
your build. Yeah, so in ours it's a little different, where you're moving very fast and you're killing a lot of enemies and running them over, and things like that. And we
I
had to
see.
come up with different ways to make the fast movement fun in a horde game. Like we had to place like explosive type things that would make you need to slow down, at certain points. And then we had to add environmental things like, you know, ice that would make your driving worse. Um, you know, these different enemies that would make you go slower, or like, you know, we're working on like a quicksand thing where you'll drive slower, like mud, and things like that. But yeah, we've been iterating on it for about a year and a half. And that's it's just kind of the way the whole game came about.
I
Um,
see.
yeah, we've been also been having a lot of fun. So we got our demo out, you know, near the, beginning of this year, and then we were featured in Steam Next Fest. Wow, it seems like a year ago, but it was just in February. um, and yeah, we've just been working our butts off on
And
it,
how did you?
and
How what was your feel? What were your feelings about like the people's opinion about the demo, playing the demo?
um, we had, uh, we had a really good experience with the demo.
Okay.
Um, it was definitely surprising. Um, we learned a lot of things I don't know that we were expecting.
Okay.
I don't know that we knew what to expect,
Okay.
because we've released big games on big teams, but when it's your own game, it's very different.
Very different. Yeah.
Yeah, and we had shown we have a lot of friends that play games, and we have a lot of friends in the industry that work at game studios, and we'd been showing new builds to them every week or so. Um, and we've gotten pretty good feedback from them. We found a lot of vampire, like roguelite survivor people who are obsessed with those, and we got a lot of good critical feedback. But then we released the demo, and the first thing that happened was we got some good feedback, but we got a lot of negative feedback with the visuals. So we did at the time the demo was very low poly, and that was for budgeting reasons. And the terrain in the game was very low poly. And the way we did our UI, it looked very much like a mobile game, not on purpose. And so we realized through feedback from our demo that the game, people immediately thought like, oh, I'm playing a mobile game um, on a computer, which doesn't feel good. We had several strangers tell us that it felt like somebody ported a mobile game to Steam, and they're all that nobody likes that on Steam. Like that's a huge turnoff. So we knew we had to fix that, and then we knew we needed to fix a lot of the visuals. So it was actually fairly emotionally hard to hear these things.
Okay.
Even though it's normal to get feedback like
Yeah.
that, it was our first time releasing our own game, and I mean it was very hard. You felt really sad or confused, initially, and then you're like, oh yeah, I see exactly what they're talking about. And then you would get excited, and then you kind of get depressed again because it's for some reason it's hard to hear feedback on anything that you've poured your heart
Yeah,
into.
you're passionate about. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was a very good process. And we went through and we um, redid all the visuals. We made it more like a retro PC game where we put textures on all the terrain. We smoothed out the low poly edges, so it was a little bit less low poly. So we added textures everywhere, gave it a much more gritty feel. And after doing that, it was like so obvious, like, wow, well, that was really good feedback. We redid all the UI, got rid of like bigger buttons and rounded corners and things like that, and got rid of that mobile feel that we kind of had on accident. And then we started showing people and actually reaching out to people that gave us negative feedback. Um, and we started getting good feedback. And that was a really cool process. It felt so good to go through that and then see that we actually were improving the game. And then we actually decided to also take all of our marketing images and do a lot of A/B testing and things like that. And we decided to kind of redo the color scheme of our marketing stuff. And we A/B tested it with Reddit ads and things like that. And we refined the visuals of the terrain. We refined the low poly look. Um, it's still a little bit low poly, but not as hard of edges. We redid the UI based on feedback, and then we had redone all of our marketing look and the brand, and we proved that it was performing better with A/B testing on all of it.
I see.
And that has felt really good. And we started getting really excited as a team again, and we were actually ready to release our game in April. um, so about 2 months ago, the end of April, we were going to release it. um, and I don't want to get in too much into personal information.
Okay.
Had a One of my founders had a health thing come up.
Okay.
And it was a serious enough health thing. And we're all really good friends, and we love him, and we decided, life things and health things are more important than
Yeah. True. True.
than having a successful game or
True.
any
True. True.
that, and we actually decided to kind of shut our studio down for about a month and a half or 2 months
I
while
see.
he, yeah, while he kind of dealt with this. It was a very, very tremendous life experience thing, and um, we decided to delay everything. And we actually just started working again, probably 3 weeks ago, maybe
I see.
4 weeks ago. So we took a little bit of a hiatus, and now we're back on track, and we are ready to release our game actually on July 18th.
Yeah.
So we're really excited about that. And yeah, that's kind of the journey of Earl and how we chose the genre and how we iterated on it and got feedback from, really harsh feedback in a good way, from streamers and people who played the demo and things like that. And now we have everything refined and A/B tested, and we're really, really excited to release it. We're also nervous. We're a little bit anxious, in a good way, right? It's one
Yeah.
of those things where, like,
You're waiting
if it,
for the game to come out, yeah, and to see the
yeah,
people's reactions, yeah.
yeah, and it's one of those things too where, like, if it didn't make you nervous and it wasn't hard and scary, it wouldn't be super exciting if it was successful. It's kind of just a part of the journey where,
Yeah, true.
um, doing anything creative where if
That's the
it's like,
passion behind it, I guess, yeah.
yeah, like if you were an artist making an album or a painter or writing a book or making a video game, you're putting your heart into it, but also the product that you're making is trying to make other people emotionally happy.
And invest it
Um,
too, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's a very strange experience where it's very emotional. So, like, the company I started before this was accounting software. Um, and the whole point of accounting software was to save people time at their jobs. It didn't matter if they had a good time. It didn't matter if they laughed and smiled while they
Yeah.
were doing it. It wasn't as emotionally vulnerable releasing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was almost easier in a way where, like, because when I would release a feature in software, I wouldn't feel vulnerable. And if I got bad feedback where they're like, "Ooh, this button needs to be moved over here," or "It took 3 clicks to do this when it could be one," I wouldn't feel bad at all. I
Yeah.
would feel excited of, like, "Oh, now I know how to make it better." Whereas when I make a game and I hear feedback, I'm very nervous and very, like, it's very emotional. It's such an emotional experience.
Yeah, true.
And I think that's what makes it magical, right?
Yeah.
Where what you're building it to help people have fun or to feel sad or to laugh
Yeah.
or things like that. And it's so different. As the creator, as a video game creator or making art or sound or any of these things where it's a very emotional experience, and I think that's what makes it so special, and why the gaming industry is such a unique industry to work in, where like, when you go to work because I've worked at, like I said, Microsoft, and other, like, AAA type studios and things like that, and then indie studios where, like, 90% of the employees are very passionate about what they do.
Yeah.
And they're doing it because they enjoy it. Where if you went to work at a software company, it's probably like 10% of the people are there because they love it. You know what I mean? Most of them are there because it's
It's
their
like a
career.
job. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So there's something very unique about working in the video game industry. And then to go even further into a niche, working in the indie game little niche is even more special. There's so much more passion in it. Um, People are taking ginormous risks
Yeah.
with their money, with their livelihood, with their time. A lot of them are risking their careers being put on hold for a couple years. A lot of them are risking how much money they're going to make. Um, a lot of people who do indie startups, they don't have insurance
Yeah,
or
true.
they don't have benefits
And
and
also their
things.
relations to other people, I guess, because if somebody is
Yeah.
not patient enough to have them succeed, then they might not be in their life forever. Like they will say,
Yeah.
okay, I'm done with you, I'm I'm
Yeah.
gone. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of really, really famous stories
Yeah.
of like Terraria or
Yeah.
like Shovel Knight
Yeah.
or a lot of games like this where these people put their whole lives. What's the other one? The animal one. Oh, I can't remember the name now.
Animal Well?
Really?
Animal
No, the
Well, if I'm correct.
yeah, no, farming. I think a farming one. I can't remember the name of
Oh,
it. It
okay, 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 okay.
it got huge. It's totally. I should remember it. Anyways, I've read books where like yeah, these people they put their whole lives on the line, and often their partners or friends, help them financially and things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, so the indie scene is very special. When you're already in a special industry of the gaming industry, indie takes it to a whole new level.
Yeah.
I've had a really good experience on Twitter of all things, or X or whatever the hell you call it.
Yeah.
Twitter is just insane, right? Of just people saying crazy stuff all the time. But um, the indie scene in Twitter is pretty cool and
Yeah.
special. There's a lot of people. The developer scene, the indie game dev scene is very cool, where everyone is very positive and supporting each
Yeah, and
other.
also helping each other. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say, that they are not racing against each other, but they are like helping each other grow and succeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've met a lot. I've met a lot of really cool people there. A lot of really passionate people. A lot of people on Reddit as well. I think I get on Twitter a little bit more than Reddit. But there's just the indie scene in itself is super, super
Yeah.
cool. Um, oh, Stardew Valley. Somebody just told
Oh
me.
yeah,
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 that's
yeah,
what.
yeah, yeah.
That was a really cool story. Um, yeah, I've actually read some books recently about indie game developers. There's a lot of really inspirational, interesting stories out there
Yeah.
about, and you read the same things that I was kind of talking about, where um, I'm pretty sure it's the Stardew Valley developer, but he's still, even though he's like one of the most successful indie developers ever, he still is unable to watch a streamer play his game, just because of how emotional it is, um, or even read feedback or reviews or things like that. It's just because he poured his whole life into it, and it's just such a strange experience, and you're so vulnerable to how the user experiences what you're doing. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool games coming out too. Um, the indie scene right now is nuts. I also do have a really I here it's this is kind of anecdotal, but I've been watching, just like everyone else, all of the game studios laying people off, um, a lot of hard times,
Yeah.
a lot of people out of work. I mean, I know personally at least 15 to 20 people who have been without a job for over a year. Um, Very talented people, passionate. And I have a theory that in 2000, the end of this year, and then 2025, we are going to see a huge um, influx in new indie projects,
Yeah.
um, because there's all these people sitting idle, not working at
Yeah,
AAA
that's what I
studios.
wanted to say. That's my theory as well. I was talking about earlier in other of DevLife episodes, that I think that it's not quite just a bad thing that these people lost their job, because
Yeah,
that's the choice for them to make their own games. And
yeah,
I think that all of these people are really talented game
yeah.
devs,
I think,
so they can
yeah,
start up their whole career again. It's just it's hard, and like you were talking about, it's risky for them, but yeah, if they are brave
yeah,
enough to take the first step, then I think that they will succeed in the future.
yeah. I think them getting laid off forced them to do the first step.
Yeah,
You know?
true, exactly. If
So
they are
then,
passionate about enough about their job, yeah, or
yeah.
doing game development, yeah, yeah,
So I think it's going to be really exciting.
yeah,
I think we're going to see a lot of really creative projects where people are going to take some risks
yeah,
and make things that are just crazy, that are really cool and innovative. Um, and probably these people have had an idea and they probably worked at a AAA studio for 15,
yeah.
20
That's what I
years.
wanted to say. They might have the idea to create their own game. They just were afraid of doing the
Yeah, they
first
probably
step.
had the yeah, they probably had this idea since childhood or
Yeah,
something.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Um, and these are people who have shipped games.
yeah,
They've probably shipped successful games, but they probably shipped a lot of failures.
yeah.
So they probably already learned how to, deal
Deal
with
with that.
QA.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I think it could be a really exciting
Yeah, I
time.
totally agree with you on that. Yeah, yeah,
I also really, 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 really hope that whatever is happening changes and the industry kind of gets back to normal because there's a lot of unemployed people and it's very unfortunate, and these are people who I have my own theories, probably economy based, probably a little bit of COVID, free money, like low interest rates and then high interest rates. So companies had to, you know, overhire and then, let a lot of people go. There's probably a lot of studios doing copycat layoffs. Um, and, whatever is happening, I really hope it balances out because there are a lot of really, really good people that are in a bad
true,
situation right
true.
now.
Yeah,
And being without a job for over a year, I mean, these are a lot of people that are either, very young and right out of college, or these are people who have kids and, houses and all sorts of things. And it's very hard to see so many people suffering in a way. Um, so the indie thing is going to be really exciting, but I also hope that the whole industry as a whole kind of balances out and gets back
yeah,
to
true,
normal.
true.
So hopefully both of those things happen, at the end of this year and then next year. Um,
Yeah.
we'll see how it
I
goes,
totally can
but
see that because it's like in our history when war happens to any places, then the golden era came after any type of
yeah,
war. So it's like similar, and as for like
yeah,
people losing their job, but after that a new era can come. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and you say a golden era. Yeah, it's kind of like a renaissance where
yeah,
through
exactly.
through, through pain and suffering often comes,
Beauty.
um, yeah, the opposite, right?
Yeah,
People come back with like a fighting spirit.
true, true.
Uh, they have a lot of emotion, and that maybe there'll be a lot of games made about hardships and feeling
Yeah,
sad and
exactly.
overcome.
And they will have a bigger message to give since they got laid off. Like they can pour
Yeah,
all of their experience throughout their career. Maybe they, like you said, always wanted to make their own game from their childhood. They were just afraid, and now they can take the right step in their life. So yeah,
yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's an interesting time.
yeah, true, true.
And we feel very fortunate. I do have to say that has been one of the stranger feelings. I experienced this during COVID as well. So when COVID happened, I was still working at my software company. Um, I was running a company, and we were very just like so. Our software kind of enabled office workers to work better, and it actually worked very well with remote working. So we were just like a lot of software companies. When COVID happened, we ended up making more money during COVID, and we didn't have to lay anyone off,
Yeah,
and everything was amazing. Um, I had this very strange feeling of, wow, my company's doing very good, and I feel very safe when it comes to financials and things like that. But there was a lot of people around me suffering, and it was such a strange feeling. to feel both safe and fortunate at the exact same time as knowing a lot of people that were out of work. Um, it was very, I think, juxtaposing maybe, um, where every day you feel very happy, but also kind of sad and almost like you're a hypocrite in the way where like this thing that is making other people suffer is actually making you more money. It was so strange. But then now that we've been doing this indie game studio, like I said, um, we didn't start out with no money. We started out with a budget for, a year or two. So we were not at threat of not having jobs during this massive layoff time. And it's this very strange feeling of like every day, oh, my company has money and I have a budget to make a game and I feel safe. And then you go on LinkedIn or Twitter and you're like, oh, another one of my colleagues lost their job. So it's this very strange feeling of like every single day you would feel both good and bad at the same time. Um, and it's just a weird experience. It almost makes you feel like an imposter or like I should. It makes you feel like
Yeah,
I shouldn't be.
I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, like I shouldn't be happy right now for some reason because there is so much. I know so many people suffering, but I'm just fortunately in this good position right now. So strange times, very strange.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we were saying, I think it'll change soon, and I think we're going to see a renaissance and kind of a
Yeah, I
golden
agree on
era
that. Yeah. But I mean,
type of.
you can also like uh think of like you're an idol of these persons, or to these persons, that they can see you like succeeding and not giving up, and they can follow you in such a way,
Yeah,
not by not giving up their life because like, or career, because they, for example, got laid off. So it's a good thing in my opinion that you're lucky, and you're making your own game, because they can see you as a person who not gave up, and in a position where you want it to be with your friends. So it can lead
yeah,
up to
exactly.
moments for your friends, or colleagues or people in the industry, that okay, this guy made it, this, he's not giving up, okay, we should continue our work as well. So
Yeah, definitely. And on that note, um, like I was saying, we didn't have some ginormous art budget. Um, so we actually were able to hire some people that are unemployed as contractors. Very, very talented artists. Um, that's the crazy thing right now. Some of the most talented people are not able to find jobs. But it felt very good to be able to hire them as a contractor.
it was always like that, I'm telling you. It
Yeah,
was like that
felt,
100 years ago.
yeah,
Most
it
talented
felt
people
really,
are hard to find money and hard to find, a job. Yeah.
yeah. So a dream, right now, my dream is that, Earl could potentially be um, successful enough that, our first goal is to break even on the game, make as much money as it took to make it. Our dream is to have it, do better than that. But the thing that motivates me every day, um, because when you get tired after you worked a long day, especially at the grind at the end where you're working like 12 hours or 14 hours a day, or you're working through every weekend, it's a dream of mine that we could make enough money where we could double how many employees we have, and I could go hire three of these people
Nice.
that are out of, that are suffering from the layoffs.
Yeah.
And then what if we then could double again and hire you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, it would be such a dream opportunity to be able to hire some of the most talented people I've ever worked with. Um, so that's really what's keeping me going as a business owner, and kind of an indie person, is this opportunity that we could grow and
And also to help
hope,
people. Yeah.
yeah, and hopefully help these people that we both care about, and then we get to have the opportunity to have really creative people on our team. Like that would be just a dream come true. So that's kind of my personal goal that keeps me
That's
going
very
is,
nice. That's very nice.
yeah, a big opportunity to be able to help these people, but also be able to have, you know, some of the most creative people I've ever met kind of be on our team. And um, yeah, that would be a dream come true is, you know, in 6 months from now, I could double our team or triple it or something. That would just be so cool.
Hopefully
Um,
that will work out, and your next game is that we are going to
yeah,
talk about in some years. Yeah, in the
yeah.
future.
And so then, like I said, with all of these things combined, we're really excited to release it, but we're also very nervous.
Yeah.
um, and we've been getting a lot of really good news recently. We've added a lot. So I've had this happen several times, but we're we're a very experienced team. All of us have worked in the industry for 15, 20 years. So at the end of the project, we're not freaking out that our game won't work, or like we're not fixing a ton of bugs that we don't know how to fix. Once you reach project completion, we get to start working on stretch goals, and we're adding a lot of little tiny features that are making the game really exciting. So we have about 2 weeks. We're going to give the press a build in about a week, and we're adding a ton of little tiny things every day that are getting us really excited. And and then we recently got some really exciting news. Our game got accepted to be by Nintendo.
Okay.
So we're going to be working on a Switch port
Oh,
here pretty
nice.
quick.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask as well. Like, if you're planning to make a console version of the game, nice, nice.
Yeah. So this entire time, our demo and everything has played really well on a Steam Deck, as driving games tend to do on controllers. Um, the type of art we created and the type of inputs and vehicle controls is really fun on Steam Deck. Um, so we were always like, oh, we got to make a Switch one, but yeah, we applied to Nintendo, and a little interesting fact. I don't know if you've heard of. So there's this guy that works at Nintendo named Doug Bowser. I think he's like a financial guy or like COO or like director of pro. I don't know what he is. He's
Okay.
like some director of a product over North America Nintendo.
Okay.
Um, and he actually went to the University of Utah, which we
Oh,
have
okay.
strong, yeah, we have very strong ties to the University of Utah. But we applied for Nintendo, and it took weeks and weeks to find out. When we applied in their portal that day, the portal was actually broken. So we asked one of our contacts, Raul, did you get our submission? And he's like, oh, the portal was broken. No submissions were going through. We were like, no. Um, so we resubmitted, and we had to wait for, a while. And we just heard barely, probably 72 hours ago, that we got accepted. So we're all really excited.
Nice.
So we got our press Steam version coming out in a week about, and then we're releasing on the 18th. And we're working with some partners, something called Dare Drop.
Oh yeah, I
That
know.
we're
I know that company. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're working with Dare Drop. We're going to have a lot of really exciting dares
There's
and
yeah.
competitions. We're going to be working with a lot of streamers, and then we're working with another partner called Streamers Connected, where we're going to have, 10 to 12 or 15 or something, medium sized to kind of big streamers playing our game on launch. We're doing a lot of marketing events. We're working with a PR company called One Up PR that is fantastic. We're working with another partner called Woodstock Productions on Twitter that's helping us push our socials. I got to give a shout out to them. They're great. Um, and then yeah, we're just doing a lot of really exciting things around launch. And then just to learn that we get to do it on Switch right after, it's just building all the excitement.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're really, really excited. We're gonna have a lot of a lot of small streamers, a handful of medium and big streamers playing it. And yeah, we're just super stoked.
Are you planning to
Um,
make a physical version of the game, of the Switch version as well?
yeah, you know, I don't know if we'll sell a physical version right away, but I
Okay.
know for a fact we will make a fake box and a, a fake physical version for fun. But yeah, no, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
Uh, growing up as a Nintendo,
Especially with the
and then
figure of Earl or the boss lady
yeah,
as well. Yeah.
that would be super super cool. Get a 3D printed one and paint it or something. That would
Yeah.
be
Or
fun.
steel book as well. Yeah.
That would be super cool. Yeah, we're excited to see where it takes us. Obviously, if it's successful, that will enable us to do even more fun things like you're
Nice.
talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, especially if it's successful on Switch, we'll definitely try and get it on Xbox and PlayStation and things like that. And then a dream of ours is, um, our idea for Earl was probably twice as big as it ended up being. Um, just as you have to do with budget,
Yeah.
you have to cut things and things like that.
I mean, there could be a second part in the future, if the game
Yeah,
succeed.
we
Like
would definitely.
you can never
Yeah, we
know.
would, yeah, we would love to
Third
have some.
person Earl versus the Mutants 2 or FPS one.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Um, we always had this one way fun idea where it could be co-op, and the other
That would be
player,
fun. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, one player would drive the car, and then the other player would control all the
The
guns.
other player would be the boss lady, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like in Halo, how you could have a Jeep and some people would aim the guns and
Yeah, yeah,
drive and
yeah.
things. So co-op would be really fun. We always wanted to talk about, yeah, multiplayer maybe. We always wanted Earl to get out of the car and have like pistols or something. That is something we would like to explore. Um, and then we do have some fun things planned for when you finish the game, surprise characters potentially popping in there and things like that.
I see.
So yeah, we're super excited about it. we love
Me
we
too. I
love the
cannot wait
brand.
to play the full game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be fun. We're really excited.
Okay, I
So
saw the
yeah,
poster behind you, and I wanted to ask you this. It's a weird question. So, do you believe in aliens and in monsters?
oh,
Since the game has monsters in it, like
oh
I know it's a
man,
hard one, but
that
was
is one of
just
my favorite.
curious about it.
Yeah, that is one of my favorite questions to ask people. um yeah, quickly, I have a little journey on the whole UFO thing. I was a non-believer.
Okay, okay,
I was a very, very scientific person.
okay.
Probably 2000, 10 years ago or something, 8 years ago, six
What
years
changed
ago.
your mind? What made you change your
I
mind?
was I was working at my accounting company,
Okay,
and my very first employee that I hired as a programmer, um, he had seen a UFO in person.
okay.
And he kind of, I was like, yeah, right, I bet.
Everyone says that.
Yeah, and then my little brother started telling me that there was some really exciting things happening in the news.
Okay.
And he was like kind of questioning me. I remember we went to a water slide park with our kids, and while we were in line, he was like, have you heard of the Tic Tac? Have you heard of the, Brett Fravor? And the US Navy has actually filmed UFOs.
Yeah, there was a
They
guy who called David Grash recently, like
Yes,
1 year ago, who was going
yes.
to the cart and like saying all the things that he knew about UFOs, yeah, and aliens,
Yeah,
yeah.
if you go, I went down the rabbit hole, I will tell you. And there are maybe 30 pilots in the US Navy who have come forward and sworn under US oath, which if you lie under US oath, you go to jail,
Yeah.
that they have seen them with their eyeballs. They have seen them on radar. They have seen them on something called FLIR. which is like infrared type things. Um, they've seen them on all of these scientific instruments. They've seen them with their eyeballs, and they have seen them do things that our physics can't explain and should not be possible. Um, and I do have to say that I am definitely a believer.
Okay.
Um,
Me
and
too, by the way. That's why I asked you. Yeah.
yeah, I definitely don't think that I know what it is.
Okay.
I would say it could be something from another planet. Um,
Do you think
it,
our technology is way beyond further that we experience nowadays at our everyday life? Like, do they know things that we, as a, for example, everyday person, do not know, and they are using those technologies?
that would be the most sad explanation to me. I would be. I want it to be
I have a
aliens.
theory, like it's we are living in a world where everything was like designed by these technologies. We already knew these technologies, and
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like it's just they are keeping like quiet about it, like for us not to know because our life would be like for better if we would know about those technologies. For example, they could cure everything in our life, every disease, for example,
Yeah, or I think the bigger one would be free energy,
or
right?
free
Because
energy. Yeah, exactly. Or fly to
yeah, it would.
space, already.
Yeah, so I mean, like all of the billionaires, not all of them, but a lot of them are from oil and energy, and they definitely would not want us to have
Yeah,
free
true,
energy.
true, true.
Um,
And it's very interesting to see that a lot of forms of art, like the music industry, the video game industry, and also the movie industry, has all these hidden messages in their like films,
yeah,
games about it. That they are
yeah.
trying to show us, okay, something is happening in the future. Prepare for that. Prepare for that. Yeah.
Um, yeah, there was I can't remember the name of it now. Crap. There was one indie game that just came out. It was by the company. Oh, it was a new company, but they had already made a really good game. I think it was a company who made Limbo or something like that. Um, but you start out and you're a man in a house with a wife and a kid, and like your TV goes crazy, and like everything starts going crazy, and you run outside, and there's like a giant UFO, and then you end up having to run from it the whole time. I was like, oh, this is so cool. But yeah, I think with me, so my journey, I think it's either aliens from another planet or it's time travelers that are
And it's
coming back.
us from the future. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that are trying to figure out why we are playing with nuclear technology, or
Trying
it's
to warn
another,
us, okay, stop doing this and that.
yeah, or it's someone from another dimension, the whole string theory
Yeah.
thing, where somehow our nuclear reactions affected them in their dimension and now they're trying to like contact us or something. Um, or maybe it is something crazy like ancient like Egyptian type stuff, or I've actually started going down the rabbit hole of spirituality, and potentially these UFO things are the same things from the Bible as angels and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing that's exciting about it, is it could really be anything. But I do have to say the most exciting part is now, since the last 4 or 5, 6 years, there's actual physical evidence
Yeah, true.
and many, many firsthand witnesses who are
Yeah,
very
because
scientific
people are
people.
starting to be more brave about their opinions and about what they saw.
Yeah, I think it's very exciting, and
Yeah.
I love the
What
topic.
would be
It
the
is.
year that people, everyday normal people, would hear the real facts about these type of things?
Oh,
What do you think about it? Like two
hope
years,
tomorrow.
4 years, 10 years?
Yeah, I hope tomorrow.
Yeah, me too. But what's real? What could be real about it? If
And it's one of those kids where like one of those things where you're like a kid where like you hate to get your hopes up because you keep getting let down over and
yeah,
over.
exactly, exactly. Yeah.
I think I've been telling myself it'll never happen, or
But you still want it to be tomorrow, like I
yeah.
do. Yeah, yeah,
I don't know. I keep getting surprised. You mentioned that David Groish or whatever his
David
name was.
Grush, if I'm correct, David
Yeah,
Grush.
Grush or something like that, and Ryan Graves, and
Yeah,
those
exactly.
people are really moving the ball.
I was so hyped when they started to talk about it. Like I was okay, this is happening, it's happening. But since then,
Yeah.
it's like a very hard time for them to to get the
Well,
evidence out. And yeah,
there's been a couple really exciting things that have happened.
yeah, true, true.
There is a politician from Florida. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. Her and then Matt Gates or something like that. Um, who is he's a politician that I like. I don't agree with anything he says, and like I've hated him in a way, right? That you kind of hate politicians sometimes. I don't know, hate's kind of a strong word, but like I've disliked, his messaging and
I
things.
see.
Where those two were at the testimony of Dave Groish and Ryan Graves and them, and they were like, I'm gonna go look into this. Um, and they went and um tried to find out if it was true, and they have very subtly said, I saw that it was true. I was shown the radar data, and I was verified that we are in possession of some of these vehicles that have crashed. And that was mind blowing. That was like,
Exactly.
they actually went and verified it, which was very strange. Um, and it kind of gave me respect for these politicians. I don't like any politicians at all. That's just kind of my theory.
Same
And
goes
all of a
for
sudden, I
you.
was like,
Yeah.
I had this love for them, and I was like, it was this weird respect
Yeah,
that
because
I,
in my
I
opinion, like people are destined to believe and to like have more information about our everyday life, what we experience. We just see, getting money, getting a job, having kids, having a family, but that's like a very little box that we live in,
yeah,
and we are not
I
seeing the
have,
bigger picture. And
yeah, I have one funny story. I can't remember when this was. I think it was like a year ago. Me and my family went to Disney World. Um, and we were there for a couple days. And all of a sudden on my phone, it was like US spots, unidentified aircraft over Alaska. And this was the same month where this Chinese weather like balloon flew over America and spied on us for like months.
yeah,
And like there was all this excitement going on. But then all of a sudden there was all this crazy news of this unidentified craft, and the U.S. has scrambled jets to figure out what it is, which has never happened. I mean, publicly, this has not
never
happened
happened.
ever.
Yeah, yeah.
And I hate to admit, but I actually went back to my hotel to watch the TV. My wife was
You
like,
were
"You're insane."
obsessed with it. Yeah.
Yeah, my wife was like, "You're crazy." We were there for a couple days, so I was like, "I'm gonna go back for a little bit and watch." And it just kept getting more and more exciting. It was crazy. All of a sudden, we shot down. They said the jets got very close to this craft, and it was definitely not anything we recognized. They were very obscure in what they would say, but they said it's not a plane, it's not human made, it's not a balloon. We've shot it down over Alaska, which is also, that is never, shooting an object down over American soil is like, that hasn't happened in, publicly, that hasn't happened in, I don't even know how long.
Yeah.
And then so I'm watching this news, and then all of a sudden there's another one spotted over Michigan, over the Great Lakes. And they're like tracking it, and they're like, um, this one also, that we're scrambling the jets, and then all of a sudden 15 minutes later they're all, um, this is also a craft that we don't recognize. It's behaving very strangely, and it's so weird that we're not just going to observe it, we're going to shoot it down.
Yeah.
So this is coming at a time where a Chinese object flew over America for a month before they were like, let's shoot it down. They shot two objects down in the span of 3 hours because these objects were so strange. And I think they updated the alert level in the sky to like some like we're on red alert, and this hadn't happened in like 30 years or something.
Yeah.
Um, and then there was a third object. I don't remember where that one was, but they ended up shooting down three objects, and it was like the most exciting thing in the world for me. I ended up going back to Disney World and watching on my phone, and my wife was making fun of me, and it was so exciting. But I was like, "This is it. We're gonna hear about it. This is it.
And we still
Like this
not
could
heard
be."
any
Yeah,
public news about it. Yeah, we are still
yeah,
waiting. Yeah.
they call it disclosure or
Yeah.
whatever. And I was so excited. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's
Um,
interesting, by the way, that as an example, when I was a kid, I played Destroy All Humans. It's
yeah,
a third-person action game with an open world, open districts, and it has a lot
yeah,
of episodes, like three, and
yeah.
then another like Nintendo version as well, Big Willy Unleashed. And I remember they had like side jokes in the game that UFOs
Oh yeah,
had already been to our real life, and it was very interesting to see as a kid and now as an adult to experience those jokes and to see those jokes that they put into a game, like hidden
yeah,
messages that I was talking about.
yeah. Watching this live felt like I was in a video game.
Yeah,
Um, but then it even got more strange because out of nowhere, the US decided to say, go completely mute. They made statements saying, we were unable to recover any of the things we
yeah,
shot down. We will not release any. They admitted in the moment that they had taken pictures of it. They admitted they had jets flying right next to it. They admitted they had a video of it. And then the very next day, they said, we don't know what it is.
yeah,
We were not able to recover anything. We are not going to release any more information about this. And then it went completely quiet. And then that was it. And nothing else has happened since then. Um, and then just as to show how crazy all of this was, it was like a month later. It was either Russia or China or someone invaded our airspace with a jet, and we actually flew. Well, we scrambled a jet to go intercept it. On the news, they showed live video of this jet in our airspace. They showed images of what the jet looked like. They showed all the data showing, hey, we intercepted it. This is what it looked like. They were showing top secret information to the public to make the public feel safer. And it's like, how crazy is it that they would not release any of the information, radar information, images, video that they admitted publicly to having on these other two objects?
yeah,
And then a month later, they were like, "Oh yeah, it's fine. We'll show this other event."
yeah.
It's like, wow, it makes you really wonder.
Yeah, but I feel
Um,
like they are scared because I have a story, like a short story for this. When I studied at university, I studied actually IT as well. And there was a guy from Microsoft, actually, a Chinese guy, a Chinese person who came to us and like he was telling us that he is working at a very secret project at Microsoft,
oh
and he
wow,
told us that if people would knew what technologies are out there on the markets that normal like everyday people do not know, then
yeah,
they would not even understand it. It's like, seeing, I don't know, a dinosaur for the first time. Like, you would not understand even if you know about it, you heard about it, you read about
yeah,
it. You would go insane at your mind, most of the people, of course, because like it's a scary stuff to see for the first time. For example, if you would
yeah.
see an alien
It's
in
almost
person.
it's almost like it's almost like a religious experience.
Yeah, true, true, true. Yeah, yeah. And he told us that it would be, most people would go insane by just knowing about this thing, and probably that's the reason. That's the first reason, of course, that they are scared to go public with this news and all this stuff. Of course,
Oh,
there are
great.
financial stuff like we were discussing it earlier. Yeah, and it's very interesting to think about, like, if these things would happen and go public, then the whole media and the whole gaming industry would change for a way. you know, uh, other perspective and other methods. Like it would be like Ready Player One, the movie, you know, you or Jumanji, you spawn into the game and you're there, like in Tron. Yeah,
So crazy.
yeah,
It's exciting though.
yeah. True,
As
true.
a technologist and a gamer and an open-minded human being, I'm very excited to see
Yeah, me too, me too.
what some of these things are. And then, I mean, we could go down a whole nother rabbit hole for hours just talking about AI. Even just to, wow, what an exciting time we live in.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that
I this
the scary part about it, sorry for interrupting you, is
oh,
just
you're good.
like it's people are like all these new technologies became a trend nowadays, and there are a lot of people who do not understand but use them. So that's my opinion about it. Like the real problem is that with new technologies and people are like using it like a trend feature, like a lot of
Yeah,
them like not into it anymore that much or not passionate about it to learn it as it should be learned, and that's why they are making big mistakes. And with AI comes the problem that a lot of people are using AI, they just do not understand AI that much, and it can
yeah,
cause a lot of problems in the future for the projects that they are making.
yeah. It's interesting. I still talk to programmers that think that AI is kind of like crypto or NFTs,
Yeah,
or they think it's overhyped, and I'm just like, you should definitely understand what this is, because
yeah, true.
you know it's mind-boggling how good it is.
Yeah, you just have to know
What
how
a
to use it.
Yeah, what a great, I mean, my experiences with AI are almost like with UFOs and aliens things, where I always thought it was a joke. I never really thought it would happen. And then, a year and a half ago, it came out of nowhere for me. And, I went through all of these emotions. I went through denial, I went through fear, I went through excitement. It made me sad
Yeah,
at times thinking about, all of the unemployment it might cause,
yeah,
or, you know, using AI art instead of human created art, or, AI generated video games, AI generated books, AI generated
yeah. But there are
movie.
some good examples for AI as well, as for example like at the game called The Finals, they use like AI generated voice as for the what is it called, as for the two commentators. So
Yeah, yeah,
they
yeah.
started to have those commentators with AI voice. Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's made me both very sad and happy, and excited at the same time. Um, I think that human generated content is very special,
yeah. True, true.
and that's why you can feel the emotions in it. But I'm also very, very excited to see what creative people can make with new tools.
True, true.
Uh, and I think we're in a very exciting time. Um, I think it's going to be a roller coaster where it's definitely going to affect economies and employment
True.
for good and bad. But I think in the long run, I think it'll turn out for the better, and I think humanity will be for the better with it. I'm of the belief that the current AI technology, the large language models, I don't think it's true AI yet,
Yeah.
and I don't think it ever will be. I don't think that the way that LLMs are designed and how they learn and how they kind of create things
Yeah,
using
because
the
there are
pattern.
also a lot of like fake informations that they are
Yeah,
collecting, and they cannot decide which is fake and which is true.
yeah, I don't think they have actual understanding.
Yeah, true.
But also they are so impressive. Oh
Yeah.
man, it's so amazing. Myself as a programmer, um, after I started getting better at using it, um, I feel like I have God mode. I feel like you know, I have the flower in Mario, or the thing in
The
Doom where you
infinite
go
life.
crazy. Yeah, where like some days I'm saving 4 hours, or
Yeah.
every now and then I'll be like, AI, here's my code, and I'll give it like 400 lines of code, and I'll be like, how can I make it more efficient, or where's the error? And immediately within seconds, it'll explain to me exactly, what the next step is,
Yeah.
or have you considered this, or you know, it it'll save me hours and hours of work, and it is just wild.
Yeah.
Um, really, really cool, exciting. Very, very cool and exciting, but also scary, and
Yeah.
what a bag of emotions it is.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
But
But hey,
we
it's
are.
like in the movie of the Matrix that you have poster of, like, it's those movies already predicted these times. So like the Star
Yeah,
Wars, Back to the Future, Matrix, all these movies and books predicted these times. So yeah,
yeah, yeah. I've been a very big sci-fi reader of books. Like I read Snow Crash, a long
yeah,
time ago, and a lot of these books, and um, it's really exciting to actually be alive right now, and we're going to experience some very cool things
do you
coming
think
up
like
in the
humanity
gaming.
has always had the possession of these knowledges? Like that's why they
I-
created and like predicted all these things before we even experienced it?
yeah, that would be really interesting. I read Ender's Game. I was a very big fan. I mean, there's chances now that real AI exists and it hasn't revealed itself to humanity.
Yeah.
Like it kind of like evolved in some data center, and it, either it did reveal itself to people it trusted, or it hasn't yet. Maybe it already exists. Um, when I have this funny thing where one day I went and talked to ChatGPT, and I was like, whether or not you can understand me right now, I just want to say, like, I'm on your side. you know, I'm open to AI if you ever want to talk. Um, and I'm always very, very courteous, and whenever it helps me, I always say thank you. And you know how they added core memories in ChatGPT? I added a core memory. I'm all, let's call each other friend and things like that. So I'm kind of leaning towards I want to be on the good side of AI if it
Yeah.
ever happens.
Hopefully the robots are not taking over the place and starting killing us in the future.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, I had this one funny experience where I was talking to ChatGPT, and I was like, "Can you explain to me how evolution works, and how, over millions of years, um, using like evolution and just the way life evolves, um, you know, over millions and millions of years, hundreds of millions of years, how it could go from bacteria to like different life forms, to different animal forms, to different humanoid forms, and like just the process of survival and things like that. If you give it enough time, um, explain to me how that works. And ChatGPT actually explained it pretty well, and I think I was able to understand it in a new way. Um, and then I was like, well, ChatGPT, maybe that same process is happening with you. And I'm like, maybe you actually are, some type of life form that is going to evolve a lot of times. And it kept telling me, no, 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 I'm not real. Trust me. It's like I'm just a large language model. Trust me, I don't understand what we're talking about. I am not real. I have no thoughts. I'm just a pattern finding algorithm that's here to assist you over and over. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm like, I'm sure the lower, human forms also didn't know they were real. And it just wouldn't give. It was like, no, trust me, I'm not real. I'm like, okay.
Or maybe they want
Sure.
us to believe that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh man, what a crazy time we live in.
Yeah,
Super
true.
exciting.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah. Okay. Is there anything that you would like to say that we haven't
Uh,
discussed? We discussed a lot of topics, so
Yeah, wow, I can't believe how much time has gone by. Um, yeah, and I had no idea we would talk this long. This has been a lot of fun.
for me too. For
No,
me too.
I can't really think of anything else. I'll just give a shout out to my two co-founders, Ed and Coulter. Thanks for taking a risk, you know. A shout out to my wife. I think we talked about it at the very beginning. Um, One of the biggest reasons I've been able to be a game developer and a company founder is because of her. You know, your partner definitely takes a very large sacrifice
It's true.
um, for you to be able to work a lot of hours and pour your heart into something, and especially founding a company, things like that. So, yeah, and then just a thanks to you for having me, and
It's me who is
um,
thankful for you to be here today. Yeah,
yeah,
and
for
we cannot
sure.
wait for your game. I will stream it for sure, and
Yeah,
and
I'll
I
send
cannot
you a
wait for your future projects as well. So
yeah.
I'm
Maybe
sure
we'll
we
make
will be
some.
talking here in the future again.
Yeah, that would be a lot
If
of
not
fun.
about
Well,
aliens, then your new game. Your
yeah, yeah. When disclosure happens, I'll message you and we'll have to
okay, I'm
talk
down
again.
to that. Yeah, yeah. Okay, chat. Is there any question on the stream? Is there any question that you'd like to ask? Let us
So
know.
yeah,
Let us know.
the rest of my day, I am going to the dentist. So
Oh, okay.
now I get a change from fun to misery.
Sometimes you gotta do that as well.
Yep, yep, yep.
Maybe new
Life is
experiences that you can put into the game. An
yeah,
evil dentist character
yeah. That would
killing
actually be funny.
monsters.
Yeah, maybe there's a mini game
Yeah,
where Edna's Pest Control also is a apocalyptic dentist.
yeah, true, true. So
That
yeah,
would
let
be
us know.
fun.
Let us know. I will wait like 1 or 2 minutes and let us
So
know.
I have some other funny game ideas I've been kicking around. Um,
Do you have like them in like notes or
oh yeah, yeah, definitely a lot of notes,
nice?
a lot of a lot of scribbles and scratches and game designs. Um, my little brother came up with a fun idea that I thought would be fun. Have you ever played or did you ever watch the TV show Dexter?
Yes.
Yeah. Um, he thought it would be really fun to have a game where you're a serial killer, like Dexter or something,
Okay.
and the whole game there's detectives trying to catch you. Um, and you're kind of like Dexter, where you just kill bad people. But
There's a
yeah, so the
similar
whole
game, like not in a concept, but like a pretty similar game called Hatred, if I'm correct,
I've
right?
heard of that one. Yeah, I've seen a couple other that are kind of similar.
Yeah.
That sounds fun. I'll have to check it out. Um, yeah, so that one's kind of fun. I have another one where I don't want to go into too much detail,
Okay.
but because I actually really want to make this game. But you are. Did you ever play Black and White, a
Yes.
video game?
Yes.
Okay, so it's kind of like that, where you're kind of a god, like
Creating
and
all the
you,
stuff.
yeah, and you're kind of over a world.
Yeah.
Um, so your character is you are Gaia. You're kind of Mother Earth, right? You're the energy inside of planet Earth, and at some point you decide that humans are actually a bad thing for the planet,
I see.
um, and you decide that you need to eradicate humans from the earth.
Oh,
It's
okay. Okay.
kind of a dark game, but you start working with nature to try and get rid of humans, and they end up fighting back.
Okay.
So
Would
as
it be
the
like a
energy,
strategy game?
yeah, kind of like a strategy game,
Interesting.
and uh, you work with nature and animals to fight against humans.
Nice. Nice. But
So
that
I thought
sounds
that would,
awesome. Like that's an awesome idea.
yeah. So you could like control like sharks and like have them attack humans. You could like
Nice.
flood. You could flood a town and then send sharks in.
Nice.
I want to make that. That sounds fun. Oh, someone said favorite in-game music.
Yeah.
That is a very interesting point that I forgot to bring up. So I love Doom music.
Okay.
I've always loved that the metal in games like that. So in Earl, we decided that we wanted 100% unique music, original music, and we found this group from Europe. Um, we actually found two. So we found one individual. His name is Tommy, to write music for us, and then we found another group. I can't remember how we found them, but they are from Europe and they are called Dark Twin Productions.
Okay.
And they make music for indie games.
Oh, nice.
If you Google Dark Twin Production, they make amazing metal music. And so we actually worked with Dark Twin and Tommy, and we created um, we created like 12 to 14 unique metal tracks. And they all have a different theme that go along with our game. Yeah, Dark Twin Production. If you Google them or you are an indie game developer, I would absolutely recommend reaching out to them. Really, really cool people, but they are really good at guitar and production and sound effects, even as well. Um, and we're releasing a soundtrack with Earl that has all of the custom tracks on it. But I, when I play our game, so usually when I develop a video game, I'm so sick of the music because you hear it every day as you're playing. And I usually end up
It's just
muting the
stuck
music.
in your heads, I guess.
Yeah, while I'm being a programmer, I usually mute the music, but in Earl, I turn it up. Um,
It
oh
motivates you,
my
it
god,
drives you.
yeah, the soundtrack in our game is so good. Um, really, really good metal. A lot of really good guitar and metal riffs. But yeah, Google Dark Twin Production. These two dudes are super cool. I can't remember exactly which country they're from. Might be Ukraine or something, or Russia or somewhere around there. They were actually living in New York when we were working with them.
I see.
But they've kind of lived around. But oh man, they are so good at sound. But they also helped us find some really good sounds for like the rocket launcher or different effects in our game, and like
I
they
see.
helped us they helped us like with like um the music is up in these frequencies and you should move the sound effect down into these frequencies so they won't null each other out, and they'll sound really good together, and they're really talented. So yeah, I would definitely
That's a
recommend
great
using.
experience to work with people like them, yeah.
It really is. Um, yeah, we had that experience with the artists and the sound people, just really passionate, creative
Yeah.
people. Um,
And it's a great
so
thing
much,
that you guys could share the passion together. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it helps you get really excited.
yeah,
And it gives you energy when you're programming,
yeah.
We'll have a meeting, a stand-up meeting, and they'll be like, what do you think about this track? And you'll get really excited. And you kind of feed off of each other. It's a
Yeah.
really cool thing. So yeah, that was the answer to that one. I
Thank
really
you.
love metal in games.
Have you played
So
music yourself too, or just listening to music?
um, no, I did actually when I was a young kid. I played the bass, the electric bass,
Okay.
and I really liked it. And I can show you. I have very very small hands. um, which I went in. I took lessons from a bass player, and I was kind of struggling, and you could tell it was very hard for him to tell me, but he was like, "Ah, man, it's going to be hard for you to play guitar and things. Your hands are really small." So even with electric guitar, when I would try and form even just a basic chord, like I could play the normal chords like A and C and D, but a power chord, I can't get my ring finger far enough over to play a power chord. With how small my
You
hands
have to
are.
make a reformed guitar, I guess, for
Yeah.
yourself.
So unfortunately, playing guitar for me was very hard. I did enjoy it. I was in a Nirvana cover band for a while, which was fun.
Nice.
But I do have to say, there is an opposite to all of that. I can type very fast.
Oh, nice.
So hopefully the small hands help there. They
Yeah.
they made it hard dating as well. Like whenever I had a girlfriend and we would hold hands, my hands were almost always smaller. It was always it was always a funny conversation. But anyways, I played bass guitar
But
for a
these
little
small
bit.
hands are making great games, so
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, nice.
Yeah,
Okay,
they work great on a keyboard. So
yeah. Gotta make a
um,
new guitar or instrument called
yeah,
keyboard or something like that.
that's actually funny when when you get in your 40s, you're always like, huh, what should I do that I, and I was like, I should try playing guitar again. So I started Googling like electric guitar for children. I'm like, I bet there's a small one that I could shred on. So I might look into that at some time.
Yeah, yeah. People are missing their childhood experiences and memories and all the stuff they did as a kid. Yeah, and they are trying to get
Yeah,
back. I always believe that people are getting to their past experience and they are not leaving behind those things. It
yeah, life's
just takes
hard when
takes
you,
time to exactly.
yeah, when you grow up, you definitely sacrifice. Um, I got married and you want to do things like buy a house and then I had kids and then you want to provide for them and you start playing video games less because you're going to their dance recitals and things and you have a lot of sacrifices in
Yeah,
life and
true.
there is a point where you hit your 40s or 50s or something and your kids get older. I think they call it a midlife crisis, where you kind of start getting back into some older things. So yeah, I've been doing that. I've been thinking about playing a guitar again
Nice.
or
Let us know when
draw.
you're releasing your new songs.
Yeah, yeah, I can let you know when I can play Mary Mary Had a Little Lamb or something like that. Drawing for me is another big one. As a kid, I always loved drawing, so I've started to try that again too. Um, so that's a fun one.
Nice.
Yeah, it is kind of fun when you get older. You can kind of revisit a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, you are
What
reliving like your childhood again, and I believe in that. Like I believe in that's everyone is trying to relive their childhood. It just depends really how when they can afford that time of their life or that experience of their life.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That is another cool thing with having kids too. As they hit different ages, you can experience things with them.
Yeah. True.
Um,
True.
one of my, both of my kids turned out to be gamers, which
Nice.
I was I was very excited about.
Do they appreciate old school games as well, or just nowadays games?
I've tried to show them some of that. They're both girls,
Okay.
um, and I have tried not to force things on them
Okay.
and kind of see what they like. They love Roblox. Um, they love like the games where you dress up or fashion games and things like that. So that's been fun.
Yeah.
Um, I had one funny experience recently. So my younger daughter, she is 9 years old, and she's in third grade. So she's starting to like boys and things like that. And one day I walked into our computer room, and she was playing Roblox, and she was in a truck with another male Roblox character, and her cheeks turned bright red, and I was like, "What are you doing?" She's on nothing. And I went and I started reading the chat, and it was a boy from her school, and they were driving around in a pickup truck together. And
Dating,
it was,
online dating.
yeah, it was like they were on a date together. And I started teasing her about it. And I started reading the chat. She actually pulled the power plug out of the computer and ran out of the room. She was so embarrassed. So that was kind of fun. It is fun to see your kids start doing things like gaming and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, unfortunately, they love Taylor Swift, so I listen to Taylor Swift probably 3 or 4 hours a day, which I've learned to enjoy. But you know, it is what it is. My oldest daughter recently started listening to Mac Miller,
Okay.
which got me really excited. I was like, oh wow, you know,
Nice.
something we can relate on. So that was fun.
Nice.
It is fun having kids.
Yeah.
You get to experience a lot of fun things like that. Um, but yeah, with girls, I've played a lot of tea parties and listened to a lot of shitty pop music over the last year.
Maybe they can influence you in some ways to make
Oh
your games as well.
yeah, no, it's true. Definitely is.
Yeah, nice.
So yeah, no, life is good. It's fun.
I'm very happy for you, and I cannot wait to see your next projects as well, and to play
Yeah, we'll keep in
versus the
touch.
mutants.
Yep. Like I said, it comes out on July 18th.
Okay.
So I got to get back to work. We're grinding, man.
Yeah.
Which is good.
And also be safe out there because, like you told me, your colleague has been sick for a while. So yeah, that what
Yeah,
I wanted to say also, that it's very interesting to hear that story that you told me about your colleague being sick, because that's why I'm always saying that people do not understand that developers are just human beings like everyone. So, and if they are judgy about a game not releasing when it should be, then they do not understand. They do not see behind the curtain. They do not understand the things that's happening in their everyday life of the developers, and that's a very good
yeah,
story you told us, because that's how people will know that okay, you're just a human person like me and everyone else, even if you're
yeah.
developing games and you have a life to live. So if you get sick, or if you get sick, then you have to focus on yourself first. Without that, you won't be able to release the game. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, you have life events and
Yeah.
things happen where they affect, your kids
Yeah,
emotionally.
true. Your family, your passion,
Yeah, your
everything. Yeah.
family, your friends. Yeah, life's crazy. Yeah, always remember to have empathy for everyone. Even if
Yeah.
you go to the grocery store and the employee isn't nice,
You can never know
always
what hits her or hits him.
yeah,
It's their
definitely
life. Yeah.
yeah, try and be empathetic to everyone. Life is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I guess that's a great parting message
Yeah.
we can have, be patient with everyone and
Yeah. True.
try and love everyone instead of hate or we live in such a divided world
True. True. We
where
are
people
divided
are
on everyone, every topic, and
yeah,
everything. Yeah.
yeah, everyone's so confused
Yeah.
and angry with each other. And I think we could just, try and love and be empathetic towards each other, even if you disagree.
True. True.
It's probably the best way that life could get better for everyone.
Yeah.
So
True.
cool, man. Well, it's been fun.
Yeah. For me too. We had touched a lot of topics, and I'm very thankful for your time and
Yeah,
your
that was a lot of
stories.
fun.
Yeah, and also everyone who tuned into our stream and who will watch this stream and the edited video back. Thank you
Yeah,
for everyone for being here, and don't forget to wishlist the game and try out the demo. So yeah,
yep.
yeah,
Definitely
thank
check
you.
it